morning, everyone. Welcome to chapel. Let us begin with the singing of a hymn, number 210. Hymn 210, we sing all verses. This morning we will be reading Ecclesiastes chapter 9. So if you could get your Bibles open to that spot or your devices. Different cultures around the world deal with death in various ways. Women in certain tribes of Colombia, South America, sing lullabies to their deceased children. They believe these children become angels on earth. In some places in Africa, the funeral is essential to the deceased to be able to continue living and then guiding those he left behind. Without a proper funeral, the deceased would become a wandering ghost, unable to help anyone. When the Europeans sailed to the New World in the 17th century, many of them brought with them their austere Puritan religion. Their thoughts on death came with a mixture of biblical teachings, but focused so much on the wrath of God rather than on the gospel of Christ. Many people were scared to death of death. Many new Americans grew tired then of that Puritan teaching of hell, so they traded in their King James Bibles for bowls of fluff. They considered what death might look like in nature, and they appeased their consciences with lofty language. My American literature students remember William Cullen Bryant and his famous poem, Thanatopsis, which takes a different view of death. Bryant wanted us to see that, you know what, you don't have to fear dying because everybody does it. And you'll always have one of the best resting places, that is the earth itself, where you will become one with nature. Reading Ecclesiastes 9 gives us the impression that Solomon himself thought a lot about death, but he would have taken a much more cynical view than Bryant did. For Solomon would say, it's not fair that everybody has to die. Doesn't a really good person deserve a much better end than a really bad person? Doesn't the clean person deserve a better fate than the dirty one? Solomon, after a lifetime of considering it, says, you know what, it doesn't matter. The same destiny awaits everybody. In Paul Thiesfeld's language, the ratio is 1 to 1. So you better try to enjoy life when you have it, Solomon encourages. Eat well, drink well, love well, work well, for in the grave you won't do any of those things well. And another negative, according to Solomon, is you don't know when this hour of death is going to come. Death can come to a little boy with cancer, or a strong teenager with a heart defect, or a dedicated teacher in a one-vehicle accident, or a nonagenarian from a stroke. You just don't know when it's going to be your time, Solomon says. So you might as well take advantage of this time called life. But you remember, these are the thoughts of one under the sun. Solomon concludes chapter 9 with what appears to be a real story, a real example of a poor but wise man who saved a small city, but then was tragically forgotten. Solomon laments that the poor man's wisdom was not honored, and he ended his life in complete obscurity. So what is life and what is death? A sinner can destroy much good, says Solomon at the end of the chapter. Let's read Ecclesiastes 9.
So I reflected on all this and concluded that the righteous and the wise and what they do are in God's hands, but no man knows whether love or hate awaits him. All share a common destiny, the righteous and the wicked, the good and the bad, the clean and the unclean, those who offer sacrifices and those who do not. As it is with the good man, so with the sinner. As it is with those who take oaths, so with those who are afraid to take them. This is the evil in everything that happens under the sun. The same destiny overtakes all. The hearts of men, moreover, are full of evil, and there is madness in their hearts while they live, and afterwards they join the dead. Anyone who is among the living has hope. Even a live dog is better off than a dead lion. For the living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing. They have no further reward, and even the memory of them is forgotten. Their love, their hate, and their jealousy have long since vanished. Never again will they have a part in anything that happens under the sun. Go, eat your food with gladness, and drink your wine with a joyful heart, for it is now that God favors what you do. Always be clothed in white, and always anoint your head with oil. Enjoy life with your wife, whom you love, all the days of this meaningless life that God has given you, under the sun. All your meaningless days. For this is your lot in life, and in your toilsome labor under the sun. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might. For in the grave, where you are going, there is neither working, nor planning, nor knowledge, nor wisdom. I have seen something else under the sun. The race is not to the swift, or the battle to the strong, nor does food come to the wise, or wealth to the brilliant, or favor to the learned. But time and chance happen to them all. Moreover, no man knows when his hour will come. As fish are caught in a cruel net, or birds are taken in a snare, so men are trapped by evil times that fall unexpectedly upon them. I also saw, under the sun, this example of wisdom that greatly impressed me. There was once a small city with only a few people in it, and a powerful king came against it, surrounded it, and built huge siege works against it. Now there lived in that city a man poor but wise, and he saved the city by his wisdom. But nobody remembered that poor man. So I said, Wisdom is better than strength. But the poor man's wisdom is despised, and his words are no longer heeded. The quiet words of the wise are more to be heeded than the shouts of a ruler of fools. Wisdom is better than weapons of war, but one sinner destroys much good. Here ends our reading.
We wouldn't want to end the Bible reading about death without God's promise of life. Not all poets were as humanistic as William Cullen Bryant. John Donne, the famous English metaphysical poet from England, will have the last word this morning on the topic of death. See if you can hear just a little of 1 Corinthians 15 in his famous poem, Death Be Not Proud. Death, be not proud, though some have called thee mighty and dreadful, for thou art not so. For those whom thou thinkst thou dost overthrow die not, poor death, nor yet canst thou kill me. From rest and sleep, but which thy pictures be, much pleasure. Then from thee much more must flow, and soonest our best men will go with thee, rest of their bones and souls' delivery. Thou art slave to fate, chance, kings, and desperate men, and dost with poison, war, and sickness dwell. And poppy or charms can make us sleep as well, and better than thy stroke. Why swellest thou then? One short sleep past, we wake eternally, and death shall be no more. Death, thou shalt die. Let's close with hymn 147, stanzas 1 and 2.